Around 8,000 spectators surrounded Horse Guards to watch the military parade, which dates back 260 years. For the first time since 1989, all 5 regiments of Foot Guards, that's the Welsh, Scots, Irish, Coldstream and Grenadier, all paraded together. That's around 1,500 soldiers. It was also the first time that a monarch has ridden horseback during the parade in more than 30 years. Of course, the last being Queen Elizabeth II in 1986. OK, we're on TV, online, on DAB+ radio and on TuneIn too. This is GB News. Back now to Mark Dolan.
Welcome to the show. This programme seems to be a magnet for breaking news because we have a developing story this evening. The Mirror newspaper has acquired extraordinary and bombshell footage of Tory party employees laughing about breaking lockdown rules at Tory party HQ during the pandemic. Take a look.
It's for party. Instagram Live. As long as we don't stop it, we're like. Well, I'm pretty sure the president will say. Laura?
This is a damning video. I understand those involved have been punished, but this will be leveraged by the Labour Party at the next general election. Plus, there are legal implications too. The Tories face the threat of new Partygate police probes as a result of this unseen footage. It is a massive scoop for the Mirror, and we will bring you full reaction, particularly at 10:30 during the papers. So, welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. In my big opinion, DIY shop Wickes goes full woke. More on that in just a moment. In the big story, I'll be speaking to the teacher whose career is in ruins after the simple crime of teaching basic biology to his students. He's live with us shortly. Plus, my Mark Meets guest is champion boxer and barrister turned best-selling author Tony Kent. Now, in my Take at 10, Harry and Meghan see their Spotify podcast deal cancelled. This tired royal soap opera is running out of storylines. Also, we'll be joined by tonight's Newsmaker, America's psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman. What is the current state of Harry and Meghan's marriage? And also, what about Donald Trump and Melania? Is that still a thing? We'll discuss that shortly. Mark Dolan tonight is the home of the papers with tomorrow's front pages from 10:30 with 3 top pundits who haven't been told what to say and who don't follow the script. Tonight, Tommy Sandu, Kinsey Schofield live from the United States and Linda Jubilee. Tonight I'll be asking the pundits, as thousands of over 65s are forced back to work, have we failed pensioners? Is requesting money as a wedding present un-British? And were residents of a Cumbrian village wrong to slaughter troublesome peacocks? Plus your emails, especially the spicy ones, mark at gbnews.com. It's going to be a busy show, and as always, we will stick to this programme's golden rule. We don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's start with my big opinion. I've always said that stifling political correctness contains within it the seeds of its own destruction. Enter stage left, the builder's favourite DIY superstore Wickes. After the scandal of Halifax Bank telling customers who believe there are 2 biological sexes they can close their account. After the embarrassing U-turn by Innocent Drinks for a Twitter thread praising the Mermaids charity who sent chest-flattening devices to young girls and who encouraged puberty blockers without parental knowledge. And after Bud Light saw a total collapse in their share price after recruiting a guy who identifies as a girl, essentially mocking and taking the piss of women. Well, now the builders merchants Wickes go full woke. Rather than making sure his company had enough stock of sandpaper and hammer drills, Wickes CEO Fraser Longdon had a bizarre online chat with the LGBTQ+ website Pink News. What that's got to do with tins of emulsion and pre-lacquered decking is anyone's guess. Now, full disclosure, I think Pride Month is lovely. If you decide to live your life a different way, good luck to you. I am the ultimate libertarian. It's your journey. Who you fall in love with, how you dress, even how you identify is in your gift. Pride is there to celebrate that, no problem. But the reason it upsets a good number of women and many gay people is that underpinning all of those pride flags, ruthlessly exploited by cynical corporations, is the idea of gender ideology, that a man is a woman and that a woman is a man. Except I'm afraid every cell in your body confirms you are either a biological male or a biological female. Blame God, not me. But according to the Wickes boss Fraser Longdon, who won't be long in this job as it's going, anyone who thinks men and women are biologically different is a bigot. And apparently they can go and buy a tin of paint somewhere else. They are not welcome in our stores, he says. What a brave statement. So what is it that these terrible bigots are saying? Well, that biological males who identify as females, rocking the full meat and two veg, shouldn't be participating in female sport. These transphobic monsters also believe in women's hard-won sex-based rights. What a shocker. They want female-only changing rooms in shops so they can try on dresses and remove their bra, not in the proximity of a biological male. Disgusting turfs. They want female-only lavatories, a place where, by definition, women are vulnerable. Pure evil. These intolerant, hateful thugs, who are not welcome at Wickes and can buy a tin of paint somewhere else, also want to exclude biological males from rape crisis centres, domestic abuse shelters and women's prisons. What are they thinking? I've got no doubt that when it emerged that a double rapist man, who now calls himself Isla Bryson, was accommodated in a Scottish women's prison, the boss of Wickes probably saw that as wonderful progress. Isla Bryson might be a double rapist, but at least she's not a bigot. And I'm sure she'll be welcomed with open arms as she hunts for hardware in a Wickes superstore, once that little princess has done her time. There are more bigots to call out along the way, including many gay and lesbian people, because gender ideology says to lesbians, for example, that if they're not attracted to a biological male with an intact penis who identifies as female, then they are, you guessed it, a bigot. I'm not an expert on the lesbians, but I have it on good authority they're not in the willy business. If they vocalise that, that is hate speech, apparently, confirming, therefore, that this toxic creed isn't just sexist by eliminating women, but deeply homophobic too. This movement is based on a lie. It's bonkers, it's anti-scientific, and it's terrifying. And it won't work. Common sense, reality, the facts are the ultimate weapon. The truth will always navigate its way through, like water seeping through a cracked roof. The only winners in this latest sorry saga are Wickes rivals. As Wickes' customer base collapses faster than one of their cheap sheds, B&Q will be full to the rafters this weekend, packed with bigots buying ladders, varnish and Allen keys. Wickes is another example of a corporation out of touch with the public mood and drunk on the Kool-Aid of woke ideology. The decision of this builder's brand to destroy itself has been a DIY job, and their share price is being hammered. The boss of Wickes, famous for selling screws, has screwed himself. It'll take more than a lick of paint to repair the damage. Now, of course, the boss of Wickes would argue that he wants to embrace and welcome all of his customers, whatever their orientation, whatever their gender. He would argue that those pushing back on gender ideology are the real dinosaurs. He's progressive and he wants his company to be inclusive. Many would agree, but what's your view? Mark at GBNews.com. Let's get reaction now from my top pundits tonight. I'm delighted to welcome comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandhu. Live from the United States, but now here in the UK, royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. The jewel in the crown of Saturday nights here at Mark Dolan tonight. And journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. Well, Linda, let me start with you. Your reaction to Wickes' what I would consider to be highly self-destructive move.
I totally agree with you, but what I really care about, and I have a Wickes kitchen, I am a Wickes woman, what I really care about, have they got enough Araldite? Have they got drill bits? Have they got the paint I want? Are they running their business properly? I don't care what the CEO's view is of transgender people. I've got no interest. I don't care if they're transgender people shopping in the shop, if they're in or out of the shop, or... I don't care. My own daughter had a friend at university, started as a girl, identified as a boy, could have gone back to identifying as a girl. I still don't care. All I care is there are kind people in the world and that people run their businesses properly and they have their shelves full of the stock I want when I go in there.
Well, definitely, and here's the point. I'm very torn about pride, Kinsey, because I'm sure, like me, you're very celebratory of alternative lifestyles, whether you're gay or maybe you identify by a different gender. Good luck to you. It's a free world. But what underpins the pride message is gender ideology, and that ignores science and it ignores women's sex-based rights.
Yes, I mean, I think for me, I feel like these things have been hijacked by political parties. And I grew up being taught that you don't talk about politics or religion. Obviously, I threw that out the window. That's a recent development. But as a kid, I never got into fights on the playground because I wasn't talking about politics or religion. I just think you alienate a huge group of people when you open your mouth like this. It's bad business. It's bad for your brand. Is somebody that, you know, celebrates pride now going to buy their nails exclusively from you? Probably not. But you've angered a lot of people.
What does this so-called gender ideology, how does it impact somebody like yourself? Because, I mean, if we're going to be very politically correct, I'm supposed to call you a cis woman. And if you were expecting a baby, right, you'd be a birthing adult. And if you fed that baby, you'd be a chest feeder.
Well, I mean, I type like IDK, so you're saying way too many words for me right now. No, I just think it complicates things. I'm from the South. I say yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and if that offends you, I apologize, but I think we need to keep things simple, and I think for the future of the universe, for the United States, for the UK, for everyone, you're just confusing a lot of children.
Now, Wickes would argue that they want to be more inclusive, that the world is changing, and we've got to not just accept that, but embrace it, Tommy Sandhu.
Yep.
That there's nothing wrong that this man has said. Why has he been hung out to dry?
No, well, I think he should go with it now, right? He should commit to what he said already, right? Because now he's going to probably backpedal and go, oh, that's not what I meant. So I'm thinking of a new slogan.
Uh-oh.
Wickes, we serve only chicks with...
No!
Bricks.
No!
Bricks.
Chicks with bricks is outstanding.
Isn't it? Thank you very much.
That's a special genre on the internet,
really
isn't
good.
it?
Yes, so that's I think so. You should build it, and then it can turn into. I think. Look, you've got to understand the market, the people that are coming in and out of Wickes all the time, and a lot of like what Linda said. I work with a lot of builders. I work in property development as well, and they don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care. I'm sorry, they're busy, they're working 16, 18 hours a day. What the company stance is, what their DIY store stance is on an issue like this, it's just so low down. And that's what I don't like about all this is that you can't even be ignorant anymore.
Yeah.
You can't even choose not to be involved.
Yeah.
You've got to take a stance. What are you putting up on your social media, Mark? Why don't you put up a tile, Mark? Why don't you put up a we stand with, we support? Actually, no, I just don't care. And what happened to the times where we can carry on not caring?
I think it's got to the point where it's completely empty virtue signalling.
Absolutely.
This attempt at virtue signalling is just so disruptive. It's just... In a way, I agree with your point, your exact point about saying that it's fine to have the gay pride flag. It's everything else that underpins it that's wrong. It's abused in a commercial sense very often, and that's a really unpleasant thing to do to a movement that's really quite powerful.
Well, indeed. I mean, many would argue that, you know, pride has essentially lost its purpose, it's lost its direction, it's been perverted, it's been hijacked. What do you think, Mark at GBNews.com? We're also going to react to that bombshell story, exclusive footage in the Mirror newspaper of the first ever video of Partygate, Tory workers at Tory Party HQ giving it large during lockdown. It's damning. We'll get full reaction during the papers at 10:30 and before then as well. But next up in the big story, I'll be speaking to the teacher whose career is in ruins after the simple crime of teaching basic biology to his students. He's next.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wickes go woke. Anybody that challenges gender ideology, the notion that there are about 20 genders, well, they're a bigot, according to the boss of Wickes. This from Mick. Hi, Mark. Why don't they just say they will only serve transgender people and see how long the business lasts? David says, hi, Mark. I'm a man with a sexual preference for women. Do I need therapy? Oh, yes, you need locking up, young man. Listen, I'll keep on top of your emails very shortly. We've got this remarkable developing story, and it's in the Mirror. It's an exclusive in tomorrow's Sunday Mirror, and it's the first lockdown video. It's very damning for the Tory government. It's some Conservative Party workers at their HQ at the height of lockdown, cavorting, laughing, joking around, and, of course, chucking plenty of red wine down their throats. We'll bring you full reaction in the papers at 10:30. Here's the video. Let's take a look.
It's third party. Someone says that in an ad and also Instagram Live. As long as we don't Well, I'm pretty sure
Now, these individuals have been punished by the party, but it's a damning video, and I just wonder whether that wins Labour the next election. We will have a look at what is going to be a bombshell story for the next couple of days. Shocking footage of those supposedly running the country, but having a wild time whilst we behaved ourselves at home. Well done to the Sunday Mirror for that exclusive footage. It is the scoop of the century. Now, how about this for a shocker? A senior teacher says he was treated like a paedophile and faced being banned from the profession over a science lesson about puberty that upset children with gender identity issues. Roy Huggins, a history teacher with more than 30 years' experience, was asked to fill in for an absent colleague to teach a class of 11 and 12-year-olds. He read from a national curriculum textbook about the physical changes to the bodies of boys and girls during puberty and provided some additional explanation to help the pupils understand. He believed that the lesson went well. Throwing him under the bus, however, following complaints from a couple of students, the school reported him to the local authority safeguarding body. Although he was completely cleared of any wrongdoing, the school went further, seeking to end his teaching career. So, what happened next? Is he still in work, and has he received justice for his shocking treatments at the hands of a school clearly in the grip of gender ideology? Roy Huggins, welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. What is the latest? Are you still in work?
At this moment in time, I'm not working. I don't have any contracts. I do occasional bits of supply for companies who know my reputation and who trust me. But at this moment in time, I'm stepping back because obviously it's not been a nice time, and I'm trying to sort of get myself back into a good place.
My heart goes out to you. How much of a personal toll has this taken on you, Roy?
In the beginning, I was shocked, and then I was very surprised, and I almost I thought it was quite funny, because I thought, really, are you going to sort of, refer me to the safeguarding committee for this? And when I was cleared, I was quite elated. But then when the letter came through from the DBS saying I was going to be formally investigated, I literally almost had a heart attack. I was sat. I was about 3 or 4 feet from where I am now, and it felt like I was being kicked by a donkey inside my chest. I fell to my feet, I fell on the floor. Honestly, the shock, the embarrassment, the humiliation. I mean, in order to be referred to the DBS, you have to have caused serious harm. That means physical, sexual, serious harm. I just read out the textbook. I mean, how do you figure that? And clearly the DBS sort of rejected that. But I wonder, why they did that. I have my own suspicions. But it was truly shocking.
And you're a history teacher, so this subject matter is not your forte. I think you resisted taking the class, but in the end you wanted to help your colleagues, and you've ultimately been punished.
Yes, I mean, it was emergency cover. The class had not had a teacher for over 30 minutes, which is, by the way, illegal. They said, Roy, can you look upstairs and could you sort of help out? So I did. When I got there, I said to the head of science, what do you want me to do? She said, well, obviously, can you teach this lesson on puberty? I said, well, I'm not comfortable about that. The last time I was trained to teach puberty was back in the 1990s. Can we not just change it for something else? And she said, look, Roy, get on with it. Read from the textbook. What can go wrong? Get to design a poster explaining the differences between a man and a woman in puberty. It can't be simpler. And, of course, that was my first mistake, not saying no.
Indeed so. And of course, reading from a biology textbook, you couldn't make it up, could you? What about the school? Why have they pursued this action against you, given that you were cleared of all wrongdoing?
I've wondered about that. I have my suspicions. Obviously, I cannot speak for the academy themselves. You're best asking them. I wondered if they were trying to test the case history to try and get DBS to actually change the rules on what we classified as being harm, offending someone's gender. I considered that. I must admit, I'm at a loss because I loved working there. I thought I was respected. I had good relationships with people there. I actually worked there for 3 years. I actually sort of stood back and retired last summer. So I must admit, I'm at a bit of a loss. though it has been pointed out to me that the academy chain, Diverse Academies, do work very closely with an organisation called Stonewall.
Yeah, and you could put two and two together, couldn't you? Do you hope to teach in the future?
I'm at the end of my career, and one of the reasons why I've chosen to speak out is I'm at the end of my career. So, you know, if I didn't work again, I can afford to take the hit. I wanted to sort of let people know that sort of what's happened to me and the sort of the ideological minefield that teachers are having to navigate every day. I could get some occasional supply work here and there. I do a lot of writing as well. I write textbooks. So I would hope, you know, but if my financial situation changed and I wanted to go back into teaching, it would be quite hard the next 5 years, simply because even though I was cleared, the way the DBS system works is you have a question mark over your name. It will say on my sort of certificates that I've been investigated. And most schools will look at that and think, well, what's happened here? There must be some sort of like, you know, there's no smoke without fire. They'd question me, and I'd obviously try and explain to them what's happened. But who would believe that you would actually be referred for reading from a science textbook?
Do you fear for the future of education?
Oh, definitely. And I fear for young people. If I was a young man with a family and I'd been referred to the DBS, a social worker would have turned up and would actually have spoken to my children and considered taking them into care, that being referred for a DBS. I mean, for young teachers, if you've got this sort of sword of Damocles hanging over your head, why be a teacher? You know, it's just the stress that I went through whilst I was being investigated for 2 months was just enormous. And the shame and the humiliation, because this is what you do to paedophiles, not to teachers who are actually dropping in to help out.
What do you think is at play here? Is there a societal agenda being played out?
Could you clarify what you mean by that?
Well, I mean, is there a certain ideology which is seeping into the classroom, which is highly politically controversial? The idea of gender ideology, that you can change your biological sex. You know, do you feel that there is a concerted effort to essentially teach this contested idea?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think having worked in different academy chains and seen different schools, obviously, you know, some schools are more proactive at this than others. But, you know, I've seen, you know, in my job day to day, boys wearing skirts, wearing tights. You know, I mean, I'd never discriminate against anyone. You accept people as you find them. But yes, I think there is. And I think certain trusts, certain academies are more proactive at that. I mean, you have to remember that many academy chains don't have to follow the national curriculum. They can pick and choose. Some follow it more than others. And so, you know, when it comes to issues like gender identity, if you have an academy chain which has a particular focus on this, then, you know, they will teach it as they see fit. You could go to another academy chain where, you know, if it's highly religious, they may teach creationism on the same level as evolution.
Roy, do you know what it was that you particularly read from this textbook that was so triggering for a couple of the students?
I think it might have been a section in the textbook where it said that boys develop a V shape and girls develop an A-frame. Someone put their hand up and said to me, "Sir, why do girls have bigger hips?" And I said, "Well, you know, you've got to remember, women have to give birth." My grandson had been born recently, and I held up my hands. I said, you know, I held him in my hands. He was this big, the size of a small ball, you know. So, you know, women develop differently to men. And I said, in many respects, women are a lot stronger than men because of their internal muscles, because I was talking about the hormonal changes that take place. And from what I understand, there are people in the trans community who find the idea that women have bigger hips than men very insulting, especially in America. And you find with children, they're often on their phones, they're often sort of like reading sort of bits and pieces from various websites on these issues. So I think it might have been that issue which triggered, but I don't know for sure.
No, and what about the school? I mean, they would argue, wouldn't they, Roy, that they simply want to be very inclusive to the whole school community, that the world is changing, there are people that have gender dysphoria, they feel they're born in the wrong body. All the school wants to do is provide a safe environment for them. What would you say to that defence?
I totally agree. I mean, you know, anyone sort of any teacher would say that's fine. I mean, in my case, I was sent up to teach a lesson without any data, without any special needs information. I did not know who was in front of me other than the register. If I had known there were students in there with issues, I would have changed or pitched the lesson differently. I'm not trained to teach this. If the school truly cared about making sure that happening, they would have actually had a specialist teacher deliver it, not a history teacher.
But Roy, you are an experienced teacher and an incredibly articulate man. I wish I'd been taught history by you. I never would have done better than my C at GCSE. But why should you have to change basic facts of biology to accommodate people's feelings?
Well, no, I would still teach the textbook, as it were. But obviously, if I was a specialist in the area, I'd know how to actually pitch it. And you normally would have, let's say, a TA there who could actually talk to the children or even take them out of the lesson. I was there on my own with no support. So, you know, I think these lessons normally delivered a lot more sensitively. Some schools, and I have some colleagues who when I told them what happened, they were really shocked. They said, what, they asked you to deliver it? Normally would bring in a nurse or bring in a company to deliver this type of information because it's such a minefield.
Roy, I'm really sorry what you've been through. It's an absolute outrage given your experience as a teacher. Thank you so much for telling us your story. Roy Huggins there, an extremely experienced history teacher who has been to hell and back, let me tell you. Coming up next with the pundits, as thousands of over 65s are forced back into work, have we failed pensioners? Is requesting money as a wedding present un-British? And were residents of a Cumbrian village wrong to slaughter troublesome peacocks? See you in 2.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
News channel.
How about this email from Tom in relation to the interview with a teacher whose career is in ruins because he taught basic biology to a class, some of whom were triggered by facts. Great show as usual, says Tom. Outrageous treatment for the teacher Roy and shame on those responsible. The teaching of facts has become forbidden, which is extremely frightening. And Ronald says, hi, Mark, listening to that teacher Roy on your programme, have we overnight become a communist country without realising it? It certainly seems like it to me. Thank you for that. Keep those emails coming. Mark at gbnews.com. Reacting to the big stories of the day, my top pundits tonight. Comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandu. Royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. Normally in America, but now in the UK. We're very excited. We might keep her, I'll be honest. And legendary journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. Thousands of over 65s have been forced back to work due to high inflation. Estimates say that as many as 100,000 pensioners are having their retirements ruined by higher living costs. So have the government failed pensioners? Linda Jubilee.
I don't think it's a question of the government failing pensioners. The fact of the matter is that people in this country used to retire at 60. They can't afford to do that now. Some of them have retired, but they need and probably want to go back to work. How many older people do you know sitting at home getting bored? They want to go back to work. And actually, the irony is they were prevented from going back to work several years ago by the retirement age being enforced. Now, people want to carry on working. They have to carry on working because, quite frankly, they're going to live, on average, until they're about 85. So they can't sit at home. They've got to get back to work. But all I'm saying is they probably want to.
Indeed. So, look, it is a concern. It's a concern for pensioners. It's a concern for the economy. Now, a soon-to-be-married couple requested that their friends gift them £250 instead of getting them wedding presents, even the ones that weren't invited. Is this the most un-British thing ever, or just a sign of our times and a result of the cost of living crisis? Kinsey, is it rude to just say to people that are coming to the wedding, we want money?
I think it is. I think it's kind of tacky. I mean, it's like setting up a GoFundMe. Like, help? I wouldn't do this, but I also don't really like weddings, so maybe I'm not...
Except royal ones.
I love those.
Yeah. I mean, how would you do it when you inevitably get married to a handsome young Prince Charming?
Hopefully.
What will your wedding list look like? Will you have a list of items at a department store? Will you ask for money? Or will you say no gifts?
I would probably take all of my gifts in small dog toys. That would be preferred, and lots of treats. No, I do think it's tacky. I think that part of the tradition is, oh, I got a new toaster, here's my blender, and, you know, I think that's cute, sweet, and funny. Imagine unwrapping all those gifts. Just like checking your Venmo, which in America is a way we share money. It's an app. Checking your Venmo to see if you got a $50 deposit is not really as exciting as opening... a pancake mixer or something.
Oh, I don't think that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's not very British. We don't do pancakes. An all-in-one English breakfast maker. But, Mark, I am British, despite...
you are very British.
Yes, I am. I don't fit in anywhere else. But at our weddings, at British Indian weddings, which I've been to all my life, it's only cash. Nobody gives gifts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in the day, maybe you might have got a plate set from someone, but someone really close, genuinely trying to set you up in your new home. Yeah. But cash is just a way.
And could it be a cheque? It could be notes?
Actually, on that note, cheque is not the dumb thing, because that's like, oh, so now you want me to go to the bank and put this in. Like, that means you don't really want me to have the money. You would have gone to the bank and drawn the money out and put the money in the envelope to make it easy. So no, the checks are not normally... If you do get a cheque, you don't... It's kind of rude to go to the bank and cash it.
Almost.
So, yeah, cash is king, man.
Isn't it Greek weddings where they pin money onto the couple when they dance?
Yeah,
that's cute.
Yeah. I could have a bit of that. But I mean, that's the
You might
point
feel a right prick, though.
It's well, just a bit. It's an etiquette thing, isn't it, with regard to the wedding list? I mean, I think the best thing to do is to say, look, we don't want anything. We've got each other. Just come to the party and have a great time.
Oh, no, I don't think that's a very good idea at all.
Really?
I would watch that Hallmark movie, though. That's so beautiful.
There you go. Well, look, never say never. It's straight out of an Agatha Christie novel. Even Hercule Poirot would be hard-pressed to solve this one. 2 peacocks were run over and a third was found poisoned in mysterious circumstances. The village of Mayport in Cumbria has not seen this much drama since the vicar's wife won the church tombola and had to forfeit the meal for two at the Stag's Head to appease furious locals. Over 30 peacocks have been roaming around this village, terrorising locals. Apparently, they've been causing damage to cars. They peck on the door so that they can get fed. So were residents of Mayport village wrong to slaughter troublesome peacocks? Tommy?
Yes. Yes, they were. You can't... Just because something is a pest and a pain, you can't just go around slaughtering it. But although I know the noise. The peacock, again, sorry to keep referring to all things Indian. I think that's why I'm here. But in that... Have you heard the peacock noise? Have you heard the peacock?
Yeah. It's very loud, isn't it?
I'm talking about dog toys. It's like stepping on squeaky dog toys. Like, it's like a horrible squeaky sound. So it is annoying. But that sound, I actually associate with India, so I don't mind it because it's kind of got nice memories. I get it, it's annoying, and if it's there all the time and they're just running wild, this is crazy. But peacocks are beautiful, and they should be.
But I mean, I think it's
properly.
like seagulls on the south coast, which steal food and cause damage and that kind of thing. We're talking about feral peacocks here, Linda.
The thing is, I think they should all be picked up and taken to the local stately home and deposited into the grounds. Now, with my Miss Marple hat on, I understand there are 3 peacocks. 2 of them were run over and one had a bit of foam round its mouth, which indicated poisoning.
Yeah.
Now, we can't conclusively say that any of those 3
No, but apparently the flattened...
slaughtered.
No, apparently the flattened peacocks were a source of suspicion.
Well, they were hit by a car.
It didn't look like an accident.
No, they were hit by a car.
Yeah, but on purpose? The plot thickens.
Are you telling me that those drivers drove over those peacocks, or was it an accident?
There's a great story about the peacocks, which is apparently there were just a few, 3 or 4, that belonged to a hotel that went out of business. And they were neglected and they just sort of escaped and reproduced. So I don't think they're indigenous to Cumbria.
No, not... but there's 30 of them now, and they are causing a very big problem.
Should animals which are pests be eliminated?
No.
Yes.
I mean, it is interesting in America, isn't it? Because there are some states that allow the killing of crocodiles and other states that don't, and also wolves and things like that. There are different rules across America about wildlife, aren't there?
Let me just say, there is a mouse in my hotel room, and I think he's a really good guy. We've made friends with each other, yes.
The mouse is a good guy.
There you go.
I don't think we should eliminate...
No. And on that bombshell, listen, speaking of bombshells, by the way, at 10 o'clock I will be dealing with Harry and Meghan, who have lost their Spotify deal. Plus, at 10:30, we will react to the first Partygate video released by the Sunday Mirror. It is explosive. It could arguably lose the Tories the next election. But next up, my Mark Meets guest is champion boxer and barrister turned best-selling crime author Tony Kent. He's got quite a story to tell. He's next.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know,
All
Kate
sorts
Moss?
of Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant, the big green, my superstar panel that are already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News. Britain's watching.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Fridays from 8, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's time now for this. Yes, indeed, it's time for Mark Meets, and champion boxer and barrister turned best-selling crime author Tony Kent. As a barrister of almost 20 years standing, Tony has prosecuted and defended in some of the country's highest-profile criminal trials. After 10 years, he left chambers to found a specialised private criminal defence firm focused on the most serious cases, with a client list that includes politicians, royals and celebrities. Throughout his career, Tony has dealt not only with the UK government, but with Scotland Yard, MI5 and the FBI, as well as the UK's and Europe's most infamous organised crime gangs. Prior to embarking on his legal career, Tony was a successful boxer, competing internationally and winning a host of national titles. His latest book is out now. It's called No Way to Die, and it's already a bestseller. Tony, great to have you in the studio. Let me give the book a wave. There it is. A lovely weighty tome. You're able to write convincingly about criminals because you know how they think.
I guess I do. I know plenty of them. And knowing plenty of them, I know that they're all different. Every one of them is different like the rest of us. But there is always, I guess, at some point they've made that decision, haven't they? They've made that decision, and that means there's got to be that similarity. Whatever is that characteristic that lets them step over the line, they've all done it.
I mean, do you think criminals are mad or bad?
I think some of them are mad. I think some of them are bad. I think some of them are in a situation that they've got no choice. I think there's no easy answer to that. Of course, mad, bad, that comes into some of them. But there are plenty of criminals who'll commit one crime in their entire life. Makes them a criminal. Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. Maybe there should be another definition. But I think there's no straight answer to that question.
And how did your childhood shape the man you are today? Because I'm looking at these three careers: boxing, barrister, and now best-selling author. So tell me about your early years.
I grew up on a council estate in West London. We're not far from the A40. I grew up at the other end of the A40 in Northolt. And I grew up with a number of brothers. And, my mum and dad were very young when there were three of us at first. There's five of us now. There were three of us when I was growing up. And they were very young. And they were they were a bit wild and immature, a bit childish, I guess you'd say. And they did their very best with us. But they're doing their very best with us. They tried to teach us right. They tried to make us do all the right things. But going back to the earlier question, not everyone is the same. And so of the three brothers, one of them, my oldest brother, has been, up until about 5 years ago, in and out of prison since he was 17 years old. And then the youngest brother, which was me, was a criminal barrister. So my early life created me entirely. I've got my mum and dad to thank for everything, but at the same time, I think your individuality, your genes or whatever it is will come through, because myself and Derek, my oldest brother, could not be more different.
No, and it's made you quite streetwise, which is why you've been able to rub shoulders with criminals, gangs, the sort of mafia types.
Yeah.
all types.
It's been very helpful in that respect. I became a barrister at 22. I'm now 45. It's nearly 23 years now. I was a barrister at 22. It's quite young to be a barrister. I didn't look 22 when I was 22. I mean, I'm a big guy. I was nowhere near as big then. I was in shape. But at the same time, I was big and I was confident. And because I'd grown up in that world, I was able to walk into a cell, and the reaction of the person that I was walking into a cell to speak to wouldn't be, "Why have you sent me this child?" Yeah. There was that element of respect. Well, that's not the right word, actually. It's probably wrong. It was that element of
credibility, maybe?
Credibility, yeah. Credibility, a kind of gravitas.
Yeah.
Not an intellectual
and
gravitas
you
necessarily.
You didn't look afraid,
gravitas.
you didn't look out of your depth.
Absolutely. And because I didn't, they would talk to me as they would talk to somebody 10 years senior to me, rather than to other people of my level.
And look, I've got my summer reading sorted out, haven't I? Killer Intent, Power Play, Marked for Death, Gripping, says Ian Rankin, who's one of my favourite writers. The latest one is No Way to Die, A Deadly Threat, A Ghost from the Past, and Time is Running Out. Why should we make this our summer read?
Because I like to look at that particular book, all of them really, but especially this one, like watching your favourite thriller film. I like to write a book so that you can cast it in your head, so you can feel like you're actually watching the words on a screen. I'm a big believer that your imagination should be the world's best movie screen, and I try to write in that way. And of all the books, that one is set in the sunniest location, and therefore it's the best one for the summer.
Where is it set?
It begins in Key West.
Oh,
I began writing it during the lockdown. I began writing during the lockdown, and I was sitting in my kitchen where I was writing at the time, just thinking, God, I wish I was somewhere else. Where do I wish I was?
Didn't we all?
The answer was Key West.
Oh, listen, it's been a thrill to meet you. Come and see us again soon. The book is out now. There it is. It's called No Way to Die by Tony Kent. Grab yourself a copy. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Tony. Lots more to come. In my take at 10, Harry and Meghan see their Spotify podcast deal cancelled. This tired royal soap opera is running out of storylines. I will be dealing with Harry and Meghan in the next couple of minutes. You won't want to miss it. Plus, that bombshell released video, a lockdown video of Tory party workers flouting the rules. Devastating for the current government. Another headache for Rishi Sunak. More reaction to that. But Harry and Meghan next. Don't go anywhere.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, folks, if you're just joining us, we have some developing news for you this evening. The Mirror newspaper has acquired footage of Tory party employees laughing about breaking lockdown rules at the height of the pandemic at Tory party HQ. Take a look at this.
Well, I'm pretty sure
This is a damning video and could be devastating for the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. We will bring you full reaction in the papers at 10:30. Props to the Sunday Mirror for that remarkable exclusive. It is 10 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, Harry and Meghan see their Spotify podcast deal cancelled. This tired royal soap opera is running out of storylines. Plus, what is the current state of their marriage? Is Meghan getting ready to cut ties? I'll be asking tonight's newsmaker, America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. And Mark Dolan Tonight is the home of the papers with tomorrow's front pages from exactly 10:30 sharp, including that pandemic exclusive from the Mirror. So, a busy hour to come. Harry and Meghan in just 2 minutes' time. It has cooled down a bit, hasn't it? Thank goodness for that. But listen, it's Saturday night, so let's have some fun. Put something cold and fizzy in the fridge, or fire up the kettle, tear open the custard creams, and let's get to work. And we start with the headlines. A good friend of mine, Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. And our top story this evening. New footage has been released which appears to show Conservative Party staff holding a raucous Christmas party at Tory headquarters in December 2020 during the height of the COVID pandemic. Now, in the video, which was obtained by the Mirror, one partygoer can be heard urging another not to live stream the footage as they joke about COVID restrictions. Two other dancing revellers appear to drunkenly bump into a table covered in party food. At least 24 guests were said to be at that gathering. CCHQ saying that formal disciplinary action was taken against 4 staff members over the event. Deputy Labour leader Angela Rayner saying that the video shows that the Tories openly mocked the rules that the British people followed. The National Education Union has announced more strike action for next month. On the 5th and the 7th of July, teachers in England will walk out in their long-running dispute over pay. The NEU is also reballoting its members to see if they want to continue taking industrial action for the rest of the year. Thousands of people have been marching in central London today calling for a change in UK abortion laws. They were chanting for the release of Carla Foster, who admitted to taking abortion pills after the legal time limit was expired, resulting in the death of her child. The 44-year-old mother of 3 was given a 28-month extended sentence. Some MPs have called for a rethink over the law, which bans terminations past 24 weeks, except in exceptional circumstances. Police have named 4 people from the same family who were found dead in a flat in West London yesterday. Although formal identification is yet to take place, they're being named as 3-year-old David Vodacek, 11-year-old Maya, 35-year-old Monica and 39-year-old Mikkel. Officers forced entry to a property on Staines Road after concerns for their welfare. The Met says it's not seeking anyone else in connection with the incident. The Kremlin says it's unlikely that Russia will extend the Black Sea grain deal. Current agreement allows food and fertilizer to be exported from 3 Ukrainian ports, providing a steady food supply to multiple countries. Its collapse could leave some nations facing food shortages. Meanwhile, President Putin says he's shown African leaders a draft peace agreement with Ukraine, which he claims Kyiv has turned down. The King has celebrated his official birthday with the nation during his first Trooping the Colour ceremony as monarch. Around 8,000 spectators surrounded Horse Guards to watch the military parade, which dates back 260 years. For the first time since 1989, all 5 regiments of Foot Guards, the Welsh, Scots, Irish, Coldstream and Grenadier, paraded together. That's around 1,500 soldiers. It was also the first time that a monarch has ridden horseback during the parade in more than 30 years, the last being Queen Elizabeth II in 1986. We're on TV, online, on DAB+ radio and on TuneIn 2. This is GB News. Back now to my friend Mark.
Nice to see a British king back on a horse. Now all he's got to do is invade France. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In the Newsmaker, what is the current state of Meghan and Harry's marriage? Are they ready to cut ties? I'll be asking tonight's Newsmaker, America's psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman. We've got the papers at 10:30 sharp, hot off the press, with an extraordinary developing story, courtesy of the Sunday Mirror. Exclusive lockdown footage of Tory party workers at Conservative Party HQ drinking wine, laughing and dancing. It's a damning video. We will bring full reaction in the papers in just 25 minutes' time. First, my take at 10. Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Duke and Duchess of Self-Pity, Harry and Meghan, have parted by mutual agreement with podcast giant Spotify, who are ending their multi-million-pound deal to make their short-lived radio series. I can't believe it. I thought this navel-gazing show about their really interesting lives would be a source of public fascination. I thought stories of how tough life is for them as they rattle around their Montecito mansion with 16 toilets would be a must-listen. And the public would be on the edge of their seats hearing about the catastrophic car crashes that never happened, or how hard it is to get privacy when you're publicising your next Netflix show or your latest book. There's no accounting for taste. I think Spotify should hang their heads in shame for cancelling this deal. How can they not support this angelic couple, the 2 greatest human beings in the world, who give the Dalai Lama a run for his money? These global and empathetic leaders who speak so movingly about climate change as they dart around the world in a private jet. How can they not support Harry, a man who decided to leave the royal family but still wants royal protection? Of course he does. How can they not support Meghan, a true humanitarian who has dumped anyone of no further use to her, including her own father, giving her a loving childhood, paying for her acting lessons? He had it coming. There's a pattern emerging here, folks. This royal soap opera is running out of storylines. The couple have said there will be no more books, no more Netflix series, and now no more podcasts, because their endless attacks on the royal family, on the British press, and on Harry's country of birth are subject to the laws of diminishing returns. The British public long ago fell out of love with this indulgent pair of crybabies, but worryingly for them, the Americans are now turning their back on them too. You reap what you sow, And if your business model is just based on moaning about how terrible your life is, whilst you enjoy unimaginable privilege, it's unlikely to succeed. This sorry saga is a tale of two brothers, William and Harry. William, who gives so much, devoting his life to public duty, and Harry, who taketh away. With the Sun newspaper revealing today that his ridiculous legal action against the Home Office for the right to pay for royal protection will likely cost British taxpayers £1 million in legal fees, all because this professional victim wants to slag off the monarchy but keep its perks, including those royal titles which represent an institution that apparently he hates so much. It's very confusing. Now, I wish Harry and Meghan all the best for the future. I hope they can be happy and make something of their lives. They've got two lovely kids, but the royal gravy train has quite clearly hit the buffers. And it could get worse, especially for Harry, who faces deportation from the United States because he may have broken immigration rules when revealing in his book Spare, California's Answer to War and Peace, that he's used drugs in the past. So, the brand is in freefall, the business model is collapsing, and soon Harry could be back here in the UK with his tail between his legs. After a pandemic, an economic crisis, and 3 prime ministers in a year, have we not suffered enough? By ending this deal, Spotify have spotted what most of us knew all along, that the world is getting tired of Woko-Mono Meghan Markle and gloomy Prince Harry, the world's least happy millionaire. Spotify have taken these two off air because of their endless hot air. This couple, who love to cancel everyone around them, have ultimately cancelled themselves. They've sold everything they can think of, including their souls, and now they're paying the price. Well, has the Harry and Meghan juggernaut ground to a screeching halt? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.com, reacting to my take at 10. Comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandu. The Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, live in the studio here in the UK, and journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. And Kinsey, I've got to go to you first. This is your specialist subject. Your reaction to the news that this rather well-paid deal has come to an end?
Well, I mean, I think the fact that they use the words, mutually agreed upon, I don't think that that's honest, because I have a Spotify podcast and there are multiple ways that you can create revenue. To save face, Meghan could have found her own sponsor, called a Red Bull, called a L'Oreal, and said, for X amount of dollars, I'm going to do commercials on my program for you. She could have created a subscription service through Spotify so her fans could have paid $5 a month to hear her content. Or she could have just read general ads that Spotify's ad agency provided for her. This was not a mutually agreed upon separation. I believe that they weren't providing the content that they had, were committed to, and that they were challenging to work with, and Spotify just decided to cut the cord. They are the #1 podcast producer in the United States of America. They are the best. Harry and Meghan said that they were looking for the best option for them to create content. You were at the #1 podcast production company. There is no better podcasting company. So I think it's all just a front, smoke and mirrors.
Indeed, and the wheels are coming off by the looks of it, Linda Jubilee.
I think that's definitely the case. And what I would say here, and no one wants to be unkind to anyone, I am sure, but at the end of the day, this is a question of talent. What we've got here is a couple who can talk about their lives in the royal family, but that's being a one-trick pony. At the end of the day, Harry doesn't understand anything about broadcasting or news or what people might be interested in, really. And Meghan, well, she's an actress, she's certainly a performer, but when you look hard at this, just because you made a success out of being in Suits, that is not the zenith of anyone's broadcasting or presenting career. At the end of the day, they didn't get good enough content and they didn't produce it regularly enough. It's as simple as that. Content is king. Even for princes.
Very good.
Are we being a little harsh on this couple? After all, the book Spare sold many copies around the world, Tommy Sandu, and they're still the most talked about couple in the world. We're talking about them tonight.
Yes, we are. And it's, very funny to hear Kinsey talk about all the things that Meghan could have done, but they would have required work. I do my own podcast, and to get a sponsor, we've just signed a sponsorship with a beer company. We've been running that podcast for 4 years. This is our second sponsor in those 4 years. It's hard running a podcast. It's hard turning up every week, week in, week out. But the fact is, we are being a little bit harsh, but this is a commercial decision. Spotify would not have cancelled this deal if the numbers were doing well, if they were getting in big numbers. But I think really what this says is the people have lost interest. The people aren't interested. If they were interested, they'd be listening, and if they were listening, Spotify would have paid the deal. Joe Rogan is still on the deal. He's getting hundreds of millions of dollars over a 5-year deal. Why? Because people turn up and people listen. I just don't think people care anymore. And also, it's so negative. Every conversation about them is about everything that's wrong in the world, everything that's bad about the royal family, everything that's bad about their past.
No, that's not the actual case. I mean, I think Spotify was disappointed in the fact that all of the good stuff was given to Spare and Netflix.
Yeah, maybe.
And they got Meghan Markle talking to Paris Hilton. I think that Spotify was like, what is this? We need to know what the fight was about. We need to know who doesn't flush the toilet after use. Like, they wanted the goods, and they had Mariah Carey talking about the definition of a diva.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we've been asking you in an exclusive Mark Dolan Tonight People's poll, will you miss Meghan Markle's podcast? Let us know if you've got time. Pop onto Twitter at GBNews. We'll bring you the results of that next. Plus, I'm very excited. We'll be speaking to America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. She'll be looking at Harry and Meghan's relationship. How long have they got? Is it on the rocks? Is Meghan already planning her exit strategy? Megxit 2. Plus, another absolute howler from Joe Biden, who still thinks the Queen is with us. We'll discuss that next.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions, and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio, and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Well, earlier in the show, we asked you, will you miss Meghan Markle's podcast? The results are in. And let me tell you that 5.9% of you say yes, whilst I'm afraid to say a staggering 94.1% say no. They will not miss the podcast if they heard it in the first place. If you're interested in a podcast, why don't you check out The Mark Dolan Way? That's my brand new podcast, 20 episodes in. And it's one of the best self-help podcasts out there. It might just change your life. Now, it's time for The Newsmaker, in which a fearless commentator speaks out on the big stories of the day. And tonight's Newsmaker is America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. And Carol, let's have a look at this. Another day, another embarrassing howler from the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, who doesn't seem to have got the memo that our late Queen is no longer with us. Take a listen to this.
And if you can see the camera, they can see you. And it's the least consequential part of this whole meeting for you, I promise. All right? God save the Queen, man.
I'm afraid he's got form on this. Here are 1 or 2 other of Joe Biden's greatest hits.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband. And I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream. By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. God. See this tie I have with a shamrock on it? This was given to me by one of these guys right here. Was a hell of a rugby player, and they beat the hell out of the Black and Tans. Oh, God.
There you go, the Black and Tans, a British military police force from the 1930s, not a rugby team. Well, Dr. Carol Lieberman, these gaffes are happening on an almost daily basis. What's your diagnosis?
Well, as you know, I diagnosed Biden when he was running the first time with encroaching dementia. And as we see, it has been encroaching ever more since then. It's really an embarrassment. It's a danger to America and to other countries who depend upon us. You know, it's not funny anymore. It's not just a gaffe. It's just ridiculous.
And do you see his decline being a steep one, or are his symptoms quite static? Could he stumble on for a few more years?
Literally stumble on. I don't think a few more years. No. You know, maybe it's because we're seeing him more. He's trying to get out there more instead of being in his basement. But it does seem to have been increasing in the last year, certainly. And, you know, I think also we're paying more attention to it because he announced that he's going to run for president again.
Who cares, though, Carol, if he's not articulate, as long as he makes the right decisions? There's no evidence that somehow he's lacking the correct intellectual instincts. It's just that he can't finish a sentence. Does that matter?
No, that's not true. There are indications that he's not thinking properly. I mean, you know, the biggest example is the debacle of Afghanistan when the Taliban didn't do what he was expecting them to do. He couldn't then do a plan B or a plan. He was just totally, you know, like a deer in headlights. So, and there are more things after that. Of course, as I said the last time I was on, and it seemed to be like a shocking revelation, I was saying that it's Obama who's running the White House. And I kind of think, you know, I've been thinking about this more as he's still planning to run, that even though he is making all these gaffes, you know, they are still propping him up because they have this perfect setup going where, you know, Obama pulls the strings, he does whatever Obama says. It doesn't matter to them whether how demented he is.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump would like to replace him in the White House, Dr. Carroll. What's your professional appraisal of his mental well-being at the moment?
Well, of course, he's has to be, very disappointed, angry, and so on about all of these charges that have been brought against him, which are absolutely absurd, because the president is supposed to have, there's a law about this, that the president is supposed to have control over what he decides are the documents that he can keep and that are classified. So this whole thing is really based on a wrong premise, and yet it's going forward. So clearly that has to be worrisome. But he gave a really good speech after the day that he was arraigned, and from his golf club in New Jersey. And it was strength under fire. Now, is he really feeling that strong? Or, it has to be getting to him to some degree, but it's the care that he has, or the determination that he has to take care of America, to make America great again, that keeps him going, even though it is a personal attack.
Indeed. Now, with Harry and Meghan's Spotify deal over, what do you make of the comments allegedly made by a Spotify executive calling the couple grifters?
I think it's right on. But they are realizing, and, they're being faced in this shocking kind of way, it's all of a sudden hitting them, that people expect more than just their titles, which they have less of now anyway, but their connection to the royal family. And, they've overstated that. They've overdone their criticism of the royal family and all of that. But that's not enough. Meghan probably thought that she didn't really have to work very hard when she did her podcast, that, I can talk about whatever I want, just have these conversations with celebrities and people are going to tune in because I'm Meghan Markle. Well, clearly that isn't true. And they didn't get the fact that they actually have to show some talent and some thought and some work into whatever it is that they're doing. So, and now they are realizing that, but I don't know that they really can do anything about it, that there's a there. There doesn't seem like there's any there, besides criticizing the royal family.
And Carol, given that you're America's psychiatrist, you've helped many couples with relationship issues. What is your view of the state of their marriage, Harry and Meghan?
There have been nails in the coffin of their marriage coming almost fast and furious. This last 6 months, they're not invited to the king's birthday celebration. That's a pretty dramatic, statement. If they're trying to make their money on the connection to the royal family and they're not even invited, it isn't even like the coronation where Harry, decided that he would come and Meghan didn't come, but now apparently he can't decide to come. He wasn't invited. So, but I think their marriage is really falling apart. Because, Meghan glommed onto Harry, first of all, to be a real princess, and second of all, to use this idea that the royal family is racist as a way to boost her political ambitions in America. And that obviously didn't work. Yes, she got an award here and there when she paid for it, but that isn't working. And so, so she's realizing that she's not getting out of this what she wants. And he's realizing, his face at the coronation says it all. It was you almost had to feel sorry for him, because it was a combination of depression and jealousy of William and sort of a feeling of loneliness and a realization, wait a second, I'm kind of left out here. My family isn't talking to me. They don't want to hug me or talk to me. It was a really sad kind of situation. And so, so I think Meghan is going to want, she's going to try to keep going up the scale. I don't know how you get higher than a prince, but she'll maybe a Hollywood prince, an actor, an A-list actor, something like that, something to move her, to keep her in the spotlight. And then Harry's in a really tough situation because, you know, he loves his children. And so he'd want to be with them, especially when he had his own experience of losing his mother. So he wouldn't want his children to lose their father. And yet I think Meghan, you know, when it falls apart, it's going to be Meghan who is the one pulling the strings, you know, who is going to be leaving, perhaps having an affair or something.
Carol, briefly, if you can, how long do you give the marriage?
Oh, I think they'll bumble along. It's a toss-up. How long will Biden bumble along to still be able to be president versus how long will Meghan and Harry bumble along to still be married? It's a little tough to say.
Listen, Carol, always a thrill to have you on the show. Check out Dr. Carol Lieberman on YouTube, on Twitter. Always a compelling commentator. Thanks, Carol. We'll catch up soon. My thanks to Dr. Carol Lieberman. We've got the papers next and that explosive story from the Sunday Mirror. The first Partygate video. I'll be showing that next.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
and action.
Sergeant Reed, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News. Britain's watching.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Fridays from 8, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's just gone 10:30. It's time for this. And let's start with the Sunday Mirror, and they get the scoop of the century. Lockdown video bombshell, the Partygate tapes. Cal and Faye, I'll ask you to get that video lined up in just a moment, if you would, but we'll go through all the papers first. This from the Sunday Mirror. Here is, say the Sunday Mirror, the first video to emerge from a series of lockdown-busting parties that shamed the government. The sensational Partygate tape shows campaign guru Ben Mallett and a pal among 24 at the Tory bash. Footage shows dancing, drinking and joking about rule bending. Yet Mr Mallet and a fellow party-goer were still on ex-Prime Minister Boris Johnson's honours list. It is sickening, says Labour's Angela Rayner. This video is going to be leveraged by the Labour Party, and I wonder whether it might be potentially decisive for the result of the next general election. I'm pleased to say we've got that exclusive footage, courtesy of the Sunday Mirror. Take a look at this. It's damning. I'm just going to load it up.
It's for party... As long as we don't well, I'm pretty sure.
Laura? Well, I've got to say that that is a damning video. Now, I understand the individuals involved have been punished, but this is going to hurt Rishi Sunak. It didn't necessarily happen on his watch, but clearly Labour will be playing this endlessly in the run-up to the next election. We do have other papers, so let's just get a couple of other headlines before we get reaction from my pundits. We've got the Sunday Telegraph. They lead with the following. Starmer aide Sue Gray broke civil service job rules. Sue Gray, the senior civil servant poached by Keir Starmer, breached Whitehall impartiality rules and could have been suspended or sacked had she not quit. Meanwhile, Prince promises to build social housing on his land, Prince William with his children. In a photograph released for Father's Day taken on the Windsor estate, the Prince has revealed proposals to build social housing on his private land, the Duchy of Cornwall, as part of his plans to fight homelessness. Hunt tells Whitehall to make spending cuts, and Macron trying to block Ben Wallace, our Defence Secretary, from NATO chief role. Mail on Sunday. Who Loves You Daddy? Poignant story behind William's Father's Day portrait. And exclusive in the Mail on Sunday, leaked WhatsApp piles pressure on police to probe Tory MP who joined Harriet Harman's Partygate witch hunt. Proof Boris accuser did go to a party in lockdown. Boris Johnson's chief Partygate inquisitor is facing an investigation over a lockdown-busting drinks party for his wife. This is Sir Bernard Jenkins, the famous nudist who went balls out to have a go at Boris Johnson. But he might be hoisted on his own petard, although I've heard he's got a lovely petard. The Sunday Express now. As row over Boris Partygate rumbles on, MPs told to stop infighting and focus on terrifying rising inflation and mortgages. Get a grip, save the economy, say the Express. How right they are. Also, Vanessa Feltz, my family's love, helped me recover from shock split. Also, lovely picture, sorry, just a quick one before we go to the next paper. Sunday Express. Cheeky Louis, Prince Louis at it again, wows fans at Grandpa's first trooping the colour. The Observer. Just an ex-MP, Sunak's allies pour scorn on beaten Johnson. Close allies of Rishi Sunak tonight dismiss Boris Johnson in contemptuous terms as just an ex-MP of no particular importance, as the former Prime Minister's political power base appeared to collapse at Westminster. Also, now English classes hit by worsening teacher crisis. Schools in England are struggling to recruit English teachers, with hundreds still trying to fill vacancies. And last but not least for now, mum in shock after regression therapy. I forgot I'd been abducted by aliens. A mum remembered being abducted by aliens 30 years ago after having therapy. Gwyn Blythe says she was inspected by a UFO by creatures with long-fingered hands and almond-shaped eyes. You've got to be joking. UFO, it's real. This is not a drill. Those are your front pages. Let's get full pundit reaction. I'm delighted to have with me in the studio comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandu, the queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting Kinsey Schofield, and journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. And if you're just joining us, this is a developing story. It's an exclusive in the Sunday Mirror. Well done to the Sunday Mirror for tracking down this video. It's a lockdown video of Tory party workers at Conservative Party HQ, cavorting, dancing, singing, drinking. Faye, I don't know if we can talk over it whilst it plays out, But let's get reaction from Linda Jubilee. The political implications of this are huge.
Absolutely enormous. It's interesting. I know Ben Mallet, and I've worked with him. Actually, a really talented, interesting young man. This is quite a few years ago. He went to university in America, came back. But the problem is he's become immersed in the kind of political bubble. And I think that it happens to everyone, that they just lose perspective. I mean, he's twirling around there at that party. He's actually... There he is. That's him, that right there. He's twirling around at this party. I understand he's been given an honour in the list. I didn't see that. But it's astonishing that he would regard that kind of behaviour. I mean, what is wrong with going home and having an early night? How difficult can it be?
Well, that sounds amazing.
Well, indeed. I mean, do you think the political damage to this government around Partygate has already been priced in, or could this further move the dial against the Tories?
I think they thought it had been priced in. But, I mean, the thing about this story is every time you think it's over, there's another development, and it just rolls on and on and on. We've seen now as well that there's further WhatsApp messages for Sir Bernard Jenkin, who actually is chair, isn't he, of the Privileges Committee. He's at another party. I mean, it makes you wonder what is going on. It's not just the Conservative Party, but what is going on with our political elite? That's what most people want to know the answer to.
Well, that's right. We've got also another developing story, Tommy Sandu, of a Conservative Party MP who's going to stand down because of a cocaine sting. He's actually going to leave Parliament because he feels he didn't get a fair hearing. It feels like things are imploding. I mean, you've got the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. Starmer aide Sue Gray broke civil service job rules. An allegation in the Telegraph. Where does this end?
OK, firstly, that looks like a scene out of The Office. Ricky Gervais is The Office. It's cringe on every level. The twirling is awful. The fact they bumped to the table, it just like, oh, God, it kind of reinforces all the stereotypes about kind of the Tory leadership and who might be there and the way they party. But that aside, I actually think what this says is if you look through anyone's time, if you were filming anyone throughout those months of lockdown or years of lockdown, we probably all broke the rules a little bit. I know I did. I went to visit my mum and dad who were around the corner, who needed my support a little bit. I dropped them off food. I went and saw them, you know, from the front garden, things like that. Tried to respect it, sort of, but I wasn't willing to not see my mum and dad. I'm sorry.
Right, but these are individuals at the heart of government. Surely there's a difference.
And they're the ones putting the rules in place, and that's why I think they're being
judged. And it's the nature of the gathering. I mean, this isn't a visit with mum and dad, is it?
No, but equally, right, OK, so, you know, maybe on Christmas Day, my family were over, my parents were over, but then they fell under my bubble and all that. What I'm saying is, if you dig through people's footage on their phones, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that get caught out. Labour, Lib Dem, Tories and all sorts. I know these guys were in a position and they needed to set the rules and abide by the rules, and therefore everyone's looking to criticise Boris Johnson and the leadership for not enforcing those rules. But I think people were people, and what we're realising is if you... And look, I'm a victim of cancel culture. If you go through phones, if you go through messages, you'll find something. You'll find something on anyone.
Kinsey, we've seen stories like this in America as well, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean...
virtue signalling politicians who completely broke the rules.
Yeah, my Governor Gavin Newsom, who they're saying could be the next president of the United States, caught in a big party, which was technically inside, $400 a plate, while we were all threatened to not... We had to wear masks while we walked our dogs. I mean, it was insane, and it was really fear-driven in the state of California. And I think that's one of many examples in the States, but it does make you sit back and wonder, you know, how did these people come into power, and the ways that they... I mean, it was fierce. I was so fearful throughout the entire process. I didn't break the rules.
Oh. Well, doesn't it demonstrate, though, Kinsey, what nonsense the rules are? Because those in the corridors of power clearly weren't afraid of the virus because they had the facts and they knew that COVID was nasty, but it was very age-specific, very health-specific. There was a particular bombshell piece of evidence going to the COVID inquiry, and this was in relation to number 10 aides who didn't wear masks because they were told by sage scientists at number 10 the masks don't work. But they didn't tell us that.
It's an overwhelming sense of betrayal when you start to read
We've been
into
had.
this. Yes. And you feel like you lost several years of your life. You lost relationships because you didn't see... I mean, it was a lonely time.
I think it's only now that people look back and they realise how damaging that whole period was. When we're in the middle of it and we're trying to punch our way through it, we're not really analysing it. But it's only now, this year and maybe in the coming months, that we'll work out really what people lost.
Yeah.
People lost a lot.
And the people who never attended funerals, they're the ones watching that footage right now. You can't imagine the pain they're feeling. And there's no going back, there's no rewinding time, there's no fixing that now. They've lost out on the final moments with loved ones. You can't take that away, and that just rubs...
And I think it's a sort of the parallel narratives of the fear that we were fed 24/7, whereas the reality of how things were for people at the heart of power who had been told by the likes of Sage, you know, this virus ain't going to kill you.
But apart from the virus, it's also this kind of lying that goes on. You've got a story there in the Mail on Sunday with Sir Bernard Jenkin, who is chair of the Privilege Committee. He is invited to a party in lockdown. He goes to the party in lockdown. It is less than a year ago that I sat at an evening supper with him where he swore blind that Boris Johnson would survive, had done nothing wrong, never lied, and would continue as Prime Minister of this country.
This is Sir Bernard Jenkins.
That's what he said.
Right, was he wearing any clothes at the time? Or was he just pleased to see you? Listen, I tell you something, this is just the most crazy story. We will get further reaction to this bombshell video. We'll look at the political implications of it, and we will also have more front pages. See you in 2.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got more papers. Let's have a look at tomorrow's Sunday Times. And they lead with the following. It's Prince William, a lovely Father's Day photograph. Him and his 3 lovely kids. William, I will end homelessness. The Prince of Wales is to use his own land for social housing, part of a huge project to end homelessness that he is launching 30 years after being taken to visit a shelter as a child by his mother, Diana. Also, another day, another Labour U-turn. Starmer in retreat on North Sea oil pledge. The Rosebank oil and gas field west of Shetland is expected to get the go-ahead within weeks, following reassurances from Sir Keir Starmer, who had said that he would be blocking all new oil and gas developments in the North Sea. This just days after they cancelled their pledge to spend £28 billion a year on a green renewal plan. Also, I survived Greek shipwreck. Drowning children tried to cling on to me. A tragic first-hand account of what was a truly unedifying spectacle this week in the Mediterranean. Those are your front pages. Let's get reaction from my top pundits. Comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandu, the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting Kinsey Schofield, and broadcaster, podcaster and Fleet Street legend Linda Jubilee. William, I will end homelessness. Quite a bold headline, Kinsey.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say this new photo that was released for Father's Day, my ovaries exploded. I think it is so cute. The way that the babies are just looking lovingly at their father. And, oh, my gosh, Louis, I would buy a Louis calendar. I'm telling you right now. But, no, I love this pursuit. And I feel like he teaches his children the importance of duty and the importance of tradition and their family's importance through action. And, you know, his mother did the same thing. Homelessness has always been very important to him. And this is what I like to see the royals on the cover of newspapers for.
Indeed, and actually giving over his own land for social housing. That's quite a step.
I think it's brilliant. And, you know, they are going through a hard time right now. They're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. People are being really critical of them. I think it was 3 weeks ago, the Daily Mail said that they were trying to upstage, you know, the new king and queen. But I think that they are a really great representation of the monarchy, and I look forward to seeing what else they accomplish.
Keir Starmer in another U-turn. This is becoming a bit of a trend, isn't it, Linda Jubilee? He said that he would scrap new oil and gas licences, but now he's approved one should he become Prime Minister.
Frankly, I don't think he goes far enough down the path to do a U-turn. I don't think he gets on the first start.
Because you've got to say something first,
That's
haven't you?
right, and he doesn't say anything. I mean, that's
he's on a roundabout.
It's just, yeah, that's right. He doesn't. It's just noise. Nothing. I was listening to something he said today, and it was just he just starts. He says something anodyne, he puts in another clause, and that's it. There is nothing of any substance there.
No, and if he keeps saying nothing, he will become our next Prime Minister, especially with videos like that exclusive from the Sunday Mirror, the Partygate video. We'll take a look at that again before we go, if we've got time. But let's have a look now at my pundits' headline heroes and back page zeros. Tommy, who's caught your eye today? Who's your hero?
Well, he's on the front page, and I'm stealing this one from Lindsay, so I'm going to say this. The picture is very cute, as we know, of the family all together, but the man himself, look at that, there he is, my hero, little Louis, Prince Louis, because it was the Trooping of the Colours, and the guy was on top form. I've got a 6-year-old, Logan. Louis is just a little bit younger than him, and this is what every sort of 5-6-year-old boy would do. As that picture that you're seeing now on the screens is when the fly past what happened. So he's looking at the planes and he's going, and he's just, it doesn't matter that he's in the wrong fan. That's what a kid should be doing. And then he held his nose, he pinched his nose when he could smell all the horse poo. And so he's just reacting, heart on the sleeve. I just think it's beautiful. We want more people to be like that.
Yes, he has replaced Prince Harry as the sort of cheeky, chappy prince.
Yeah, the free spirit. Remember when Harry was so joyful and full of life and, like, laughter? No, you don't remember that anymore. I think that's what's Ludo. Is it my turn? I don't know. I've never...
Well, yeah, who is your headline hero? Who caught your eye?
You are popping my headline hero cherry tonight. It's Bill Simmons. He's an executive for Spotify. He called Harry and Meghan grifters on his podcast. He says that he has got additional dirt on Harry. They had a one-on-one Zoom call where he tried to pull ideas out of Prince Harry for podcasts podcast concepts. And he said it did not go over too well, and he's holding on to that. So I'm willing to buy you a beer or several. I'd love to know the details. And, good for him for calling them out and for letting us know a little bit more of what was going on behind the scenes.
Most certainly. Linda, who's your headline hero?
Well, I nominated Glenda Jackson, who I had the great pleasure of interviewing when I was a young reporter on the Mail on Sunday, and I've never forgotten the experience. I think that her version of Elizabeth I has never been bettered. It was a moment in television history, that series. You're probably far too young to remember this, but I remember my dad letting me stay up late so that I could watch it, and it led to this great love of that whole Tudor period in British history. But I think if we're going to talk about, sadly, our politicians not coming up to speed, I think there is a fine example of someone who was a tremendous person on every level, who was politically engaged. She might not be of my political persuasion, but she was a thoroughly effective politician. Her heart was in the right place, and she was one of the best actresses of her generation. I think she's definitely my hero.
Well, she's very well deserved and she'll be much missed. Let's power through our back page zeros. Just a few seconds, Tommy Sandu. Who have you got?
Naughty neighbours nicking the outside tap. There's one outside tap and it belongs to one neighbour and the next door neighbour is stealing the water from it. I just think, look, you should love thy neighbour, and I'm more than happy to share my hose with the next door neighbour.
So I've heard. Kinsey, why Joe Biden?
God save the Queen, man.
That would do it. And Linda Jubilee, who have you got?
Oh, I've got to be quite careful here because it's the chairman of the Independent Police Complaints Commission, Michael Lockwood, who has now been charged with, I think, 9 serious offences. 3 of sexual abuse, 3 of rape. I can't go any further because I would be in contempt.
A dreadful set of allegations.
Situation.
Thanks to my amazing pundits. Kinsey, come back and see us again soon. Thanks for your company. We're back tomorrow at 9. Headliners is next.
Good evening, my name's Rachel Ayres and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast brought to you by the Met Office. So it's been an unsettled first half of the weekend and that's not going to change tomorrow. This unsettled weather is all due to this area of low pressure that's out to the west of the UK, bringing various occlusions in from the southwest, and these are a bit of a focus for some heavy showers and thunderstorms. Now, looking at the detail for this evening, and thunderstorms and showers that we've seen through today will continue tonight and push north-eastwards. There will be a few clearer spells as well around this evening, but for North Sea coast, low cloud will push in as well. And this cloud and some of the rain we've had around today will make for another warm and humid night. So to start Sunday, it'll be quite unsettled for some, with showers already to start the morning. Some places will see a bit of hazy brightness as well before we see further heavy showers and thunderstorms popping up, especially as we get closer towards lunchtime. Temperature-wise,